Welcome back to Hoops HD, everybody. It is Monday, February 16th. That means it's time for our weekly Hoops HD report. I'm your
Yes,
host, Chad
sir.
Sherwood. We got a loudmouth puppet down below me. His name is David Griggs. Off to my
Not
side
so
here, we got
loud.
John. Okay, then try to be quiet the rest of the show.
Oh, okay.
We got John Titleton next to me, John Sleeka behind him. Four of us here.
It's
We
just a
got a
weird
lot
thing
to.
for you to say. Like you act like I'm always interrupting you or something.
Okay, we got a buzzer working at least this week. But we got a lot to get to. But I thought before we actually jumped into what's been going on the court with the games, we'd start in the Big 12, and we'll get to the Big 12 first, also, I guess here. But off the court news, or maybe potentially partially on the court news, with the firing of Jerome Tang from Kansas State. Now, Kansas State is not having a good season at all. And I don't think it comes to a shock as anybody that he was going to be let go at some point, whether it was right now or at the end of the season. But after the game a few days ago, uh, his comment uh, was about how pissed off he was at the kids, and he said that some of the kids here they don't love this place, they don't deserve to be here. That was a comment. It was to the media. Quite
Yeah.
frankly, I think it was a coach being honest and being frustrated with his team, in my opinion. I don't know if any of you disagree with that. Feel free to jump in if you don't. But, well, Tytel, that Kansas State decided to make that a for-cause firing because of those comments. Ridiculous.
Um, I mean, they have 18 million reasons to try to make it not ridiculous, but we'll see what happens. I believe the comments were made after their loss at home to Cincinnati by 29 points, which was frankly embarrassing for everybody involved. Although, when the Bearcats are shooting 16 of 28 behind the arc, I don't know if it's an embarrassing thing in terms of the effort or just like if everybody on the team is making their shots that day, what are you going to do about it? Um, where is it good cause to fire a coach who's 1-11 in conference and lost four in a row in non-conference as well, including to Bowling Green at home by 16? Arguably, but like he beat Cal, he beat Tulsa, he beat Mississippi State, he beat Creighton. Like it's not like he's like 2-20. There is some semblance of hope. He's doing it with injured guys. Abdi Bashir missed the game last time. He's got several other guys out. Like he's not at full strength. And yes, he's got PJ Haggerty and other people, but like they're losing. And there are good ways to handle it. Do I think this is going to end well for Kansas State? Absolutely not. But that's why there's lawyers, right, Chad?
Yeah, well, they could fire him without cause. They just have to pay the buyout on his contract.
Right.
If they say it is for causes and you violated some portion of the contract, and they're trying to claim that those comments to the press conference were the violation of it, and I'll put it up on the screen right here, Griggs. This
Yeah.
is
Thanks
the
for.
actual clause, the clause that was circulated on the internet here from his contract. Uh, Go down to kind of like the sub paragraph one there, subjecting the coach, Kansas State Athletics, or the university to public disrepute, embarrassment, ridicule, scandal, um, conduct reflecting unfavorably upon the university, uh, adversely affecting the reputation of the university, interferes with his standing as an ambassador for the university, contrary to the best interests of the university, its students, and its programs. Was I don't think that that's what this paragraph really meant. Was saying, hey, our guys aren't loving the game and aren't maybe won't be here next year. Is it?
I think that
No.
sounds like every day with David Griggs here.
Yeah, as someone that's been fired for cause a lot myself, but I just don't think at the time that he made the comments, I didn't even see. I got to be honest, I don't know if I even saw his full speech. I saw it on social media and clicked on it and heard it and just dismissed it as another coach that was frustrated, saying some things that maybe he shouldn't be saying, but there was nothing really wrong with it. It certainly didn't warrant a for cause termination in any regard. And to me, a for cause termination would have been singling out a player and berating them or saying things that weren't true or saying things about them that even if they were true, they were about a personal nature and did not need to be made public. He said his team played like crap. Is
Yeah, yeah,
essentially all
yeah.
it amounted to. That's
Hold on a
all it
second,
was.
Griggs. You have the actual quote from him, Titel. Do you not?
Yes, I can read it. Quote,
Yes, thank you.
these dudes do not deserve to wear this uniform. There will be very few of them in it next year. I'm embarrassed for the university. I'm embarrassed for our fans, our student section. It is ridiculous. I have no answer, no other words, unquote.
I don't have a problem with that. I would have been like, maybe you need to be a little more supportive publicly and make those types of comments in the locker room, but that's not a fireable offense. That's not embarrassing. And furthermore,
I think, Riggs, I sorry to jump in here, but that's
yeah,
the
go
type of
ahead.
comment that he probably made a dozen times in the locker room already. Sometimes taking it the next step is a strategic move as a coach.
Yeah,
Maybe that will be what lights the fire and then gets them playing better.
yeah. And it wasn't over the line. Like, I don't think what would have bothered me if I were an administrator, and don't laugh at that thought. Well, okay, you can laugh at that thought, but would be if he singled out a kid, if he bullied a kid, had he said something about a kid that was personal or private, and something, or obviously like physically threatened or physically attacked someone. Saying what he said, it just doesn't even warrant. It's maybe a cringe, like, oh man, why do you have to say that? But it's nothing more than that. And furthermore, like, how can the school prove embarrassment, humiliation, like all of those adjectives that you read, when no one from the media that I saw, there was no story that picked up on it and said, my God, this guy's like out of his head.
I'll tell you what Doug Gottlieb did for Green
Yeah,
Bay yesterday, going off on the officials, dropping F-bombs about the officials in the Horizon League conference. I was way worse than anything that Jerome Tang
yeah,
did.
right.
And I don't think it was that bad either because the game was ridiculous. I agree with Gottlieb on the
But
official.
I think the other problem is Green Bay wouldn't have been embarrassed. They probably would have been secretly enjoying that kind of publicity.
Yeah.
Uh, Anyhow, let's get to the actual court here and let's stick in the Big 12. And, well, I think I got highlighted there already what was the game of the weekend, game of the past week so far. Titel, you probably don't want to discuss it because your team was on the losing end, albeit a little shorthanded. But Stalika, how about Texas Tech going into Arizona? Also picked up the win over Colorado by a huge margin. Just a powerful week for the Raiders.
Well, this is again now the third win, or no, it's the well, it's the second win for sure that we know of against a protected seed. If you're a Red Raider fan, and could potentially be a third if Houston is able to crack the ceiling, so to speak. Now, post game, there was a little bit of sour grapes, at least from one Arizona fan who ended up slashing the tires on the Texas Tech bus.
Some of that, yeah.
But
Yeah,
I think as far as on the court, that's going to be yet another monster win for the Red Raiders.
yeah, and look at that, Griggs. They've now been numbers two, three, and four in the nation, according to the net at least. Two out of
Yeah.
the three away from home.
Yeah, that
That's that top of the profile is maybe the best of the nation.
it is. I mean, it's not the best overall profile, but no one tops out like that. No one has more than two. I mean, that's three monster wins. And I know Houston, the win was at home, but both were battles. They went down to Houston and nearly beat them down there. And this was my preseason pick to win it all. I don't know if I would still be there, but beating a team like Arizona, and to be fair, they were a little bit shorthanded, but Arizona is clearly a Final Four caliber team. They were well deserving of the number one ranking. Before this game, I thought Arizona had what was the single most impressive win of the year with their win on campus at UConn. So, I mean, this is a team that can play at a high level, and the win on their floor. The thing about playing a Final Four caliber team in the Final Four is that it's on a neutral floor. They went to Arizona and won. So if they can do that, they can beat anybody.
Yeah, Arizona, tough week. I get it. They played it, went to Kansas and lost the game at home to Texas Tech. Nothing to sneeze at, but
Right.
after having been undefeated heading into the week, an 0-2 week, you're not worried though, Titel, are you?
Define word. Do I think we're going to drop to like a three seed? Absolutely not. Like,
No.
do I think that this is a wake up call that even when we're like out rebounding an opponent and like having a decent performance in the field, that we can still lose to some of the best teams in the country? Yes, I'm worried because like look ahead. We got at Houston this weekend. We got Iowa State and Kansas back to back in a couple of weeks. Like the schedule is brutal.
I think BYU better watch out a couple nights because they might get blown out of the building very, very bad by a very angry Arizona team, I think. Uh,
I would
but
also remind you this is a BYU team that nearly came back from a very large deficit for Arizona, so they're going to be a little bit hungry themselves to try to redeem themselves for their performance out in Provo.
yeah, let's talk about a couple other teams here and start with Houston, actually, who, as we record this, they have a early trailing Iowa State on the road here, and a huge game that's going on as we record this tonight. But Titel, they did win a pair of games this week, including ending Jerome Tang's career on Saturday.
It did. I still didn't think it was going to be enough to be number two in the AP poll. I'll get to that more in my final thought. But yeah, what else can you ask of Kelvin Sampson? 132 wins in the past 4 years. His only two losses this year are both away from home to Tennessee and Texas Tech by a combined 7 points. He's top 12 in the nation in both adjusted offensive and defensive efficiency, but very tough road. At Hilton Magic as we speak, host Arizona next Saturday, head to Kansas next Monday. He's got a great mix of veterans and rookies. He's got a senior in Emmanuel Sharp leading the team with 17 points a game, and he's now the all-time leading three-point shooter in school history. He's got a freshman point guard in Kingston Flemings averaging 16 points and 5 assists a game, projected top 5 pick in the NBA draft this spring. And if they need a stop on defense at the end of the game, they got the reigning defensive player of the year in the conference, Joseph, aka JoJo Tugler, 7'6" wingspan. Sampson has called him the most unique player he's had in 37 years as a head coach.
Now, to answer Titel's question from earlier, you can get Houston some more NIL money, where Kelvin Sampson was claiming they were poor, at least in that department. Now, as it turned out, Mick Cronin actually Venmoed $1 to Houston's NIL fund, which is weird because I didn't think Mick Cronin had a sense of humor.
Oh, okay. Anyhow,
That was
that
well
was good.
played by Mick Cronin. He won the
Very.
day.
Uh, Griggs, I think there's a couple of teams worth discussing here in the
Oh yeah,
league. You kind
several.
of, as we go down below, we mentioned BYU a little bit already. Iowa State playing that big game tonight. Look more in the bubble here, and a couple of teams. Let's start with UCF, actually.
Yeah.
UCF, maybe UCF and West Virginia, hit them both jointly because I think that this game on Saturday almost changed the trajectory of both profiles.
I think it did too. And West Virginia was a team that I'd been talking about that we had been pointing out as not a team that we're selecting, but a team to keep an eye on. And this is why I still don't think they're all the way to the bubble after that win, but they're taking big steps toward it. And they are, I think, right now on the court, while their overall body of work isn't there, I think their team is. And they're playing like a tournament caliber team right now, and they certainly played like one over the weekend. I just think they're trending in the right direction. Will there be enough there at the end of the year? Because if you look at their remaining schedule, there isn't really another chance other than maybe the game at TCU to take a big step forward. But you look at it and it's like, well, they're better than Utah and they're playing well enough to where they should win, maybe not at TCU, but to win at Oklahoma State. BYU's in a tailspin. K-State is coachless, and they already won at UCF. I mean, they could win all but one of their remaining regular season games, and if they do all that, I think they are right in that conversation.
Yeah, if you
Ye-
look at their schedule, like the losses, for example, their schedule was extremely front-loaded when you look at
Yeah.
Arizona, Houston, and Iowa State. Even Kansas, the one home game in that stretch, but they did manage to win that one.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
they're a team that February West Virginia would blow out December West Virginia. They just got better.
And keep in
Uh,
mind, West Virginia is still in a very bad mood about getting left out of the tournament last year after Texas and Carolina snuck in.
Yeah.
uh, Taita, let me ask you about TCU also. This is another team that is definitely trending up, coming off that Iowa State win. They also picked up, albeit they needed overtime, they picked up the win at Oklahoma State. Real good week for them, especially when Iowa State turns around and beats Kansas right after that.
Real good month. They lost 5 games in January. I was kind of ready to give up on them. They started February losing at Colorado by 26, and I was giving up on them. And then they squeaked by Kansas State, somehow beat Iowa State, beat Oklahoma State on the road in overtime, and a very winnable schedule the rest of the way. I don't think they're winning at Texas Tech, but I think they could win 5 of the next 6. That would put them at what, 21-10? with a WAB at 44 and a J&G at 43. That's squarely on the bubble.
I agree. I think it's a team that's got to get a look at. First of all, Rocco Miller joining us. Rocco, great to see you again. We are just kind of
You as
finishing up
well.
with the Big 12. We hit on almost every team in the conference, honestly. But I'll give you 3 seconds here. Any thoughts on the Big 12 overall, just before we move
Well,
on?
huge weeks for the Texas schools and TCU and Texas Tech. I think that was probably covered.
Yeah.
And TCU for me, last team in the field today. I think they've done just enough. Came down to them or Missouri. I like the fact that TCU's got a decent road record, and Missouri didn't. And we'll talk about Missouri later, I'm sure. But yeah, I think those were the two big bright spots for the league. And then obviously Iowa State, Houston just got started, so that will be a monstrous story in about 2 hours.
Yep, we will be done here well before that game goes final. But there's a few other pretty big ones here. I don't know whether BYU Arizona is going to be a big game or not, other than as I already predicted, it's going to be a big blowout for Arizona, who's hungry. But
Well, yeah, I don't know if you guys talked about Koa Pete. I don't know what his status is. He only played 11 minutes, never came back, leg injury. Very
mm,
concerning. Obviously, a huge part of Arizona. BYU, we know what they're up against, but just be leery of Arizona until we know more.
fair
I
enough.
think I think Arizona's pretty good.
They
Uh,
are very good, but he's a big part of that. He really
uh,
is.
I'll tell you, it is if BYU could just get a split this week, they're gonna be proven to us that they can keep winning despite being without Richie
Yeah.
Saunders the rest of the year. So that's the hi
That's going to be
BYU.
hard to do.
Well, it's a home game against Iowa State
Yeah.
Saturday, and
Yeah.
so Iowa State
And
come
remember,
off tonight. Yeah.
yeah, you got to remember Iowa State's lost on the road to two non-tournament teams.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, I remember.
okay.
I tend to remember what teams do on the road. I ignore the home wins; those don't count.
Also,
Agreed. I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
a very bubblicious game here Saturday. Also, West Virginia TCU won't make the headlines, but it's one that if you're looking at the
That
bubble, I
one's
think you should
huge.
keep an eye
Yeah.
on.
It'll make our list of highlighted games unless I forget to list it like I did Texas Tech and
Both
Arizona.
of TCU's games are bubblicious because they also go to UCF tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I make an oversight like that again, get on and edit it. And you can even call me an idiot for missing it. But geez.
Well, you are an idiot, but that's another story.
Yeah.
Throw in there, it's still a week away. Houston at Kansas next Monday, though. So it's what a week for Houston. Also, Iowa State, Arizona, Kansas, one, two,
Yeah.
three. Um,
The league did not want them to go undefeated. I think that's what Mr. Yormak's trying to tell us.
Let's jump over to the Big Ten, where, well, Stalika, where would you like to start off? Maybe it is with Michigan, who's back to number one in the nation. Really, got
Have a
a bit of a
boring
game,
week.
got a bit of a game from Northwestern, a bit of a game from UCLA early, but ended up blowing out those games at the end of the day.
I was actually going to check and make sure Matt was not on the panel tonight because, as much as we've touched on Michigan before, I was actually going to touch on Wisconsin because this is a team that made a huge
Okay.
jump during the past week because they went from a one-trick pony to now having three wins of significance because they start with their downstate rival Illinois last Tuesday night, which was a little bit contentious for Brad Underwood and his crew. But as far as their Friday night blowout, there was no dispute who was the better team on the court that night, and that was probably the worst loss Tom Izzo has had, at least as far as when he was in the top 10.
Yeah, I think this was one of the best weeks that almost any team in the nation has had. What Wisconsin did this week, uh, I'll pull their profile up here, Griggs. They went from a one-trick pony to a three-trick pony in a matter of just a few days.
Yeah. And I mean, Michigan and Illinois, you talk about similar to Tech. It doesn't top out quite as high as Texas Tech,
It's damn
but
close.
those are
Damn,
damn
damn
close.
close.
Yes, yes. I mean, that is just a remarkable. It was to the point to where it's like, how are they doing this and losing the USC? The distance between the floor and the ceiling is shocking. But I mean, they are. They're one of those teams that mid-February Wisconsin would blow out December Wisconsin. I mean, just so
I
much
like that.
better.
Uh, Another team rocking with a great week was Purdue. Win at Nebraska in overtime, win at Iowa. Two huge road wins against tournament teams.
Yeah, really improved their resume. Obviously, now you've got wins at Alabama, at Wisconsin, at USC, and then you throw a Nebraska and an Iowa on top of that. That's a heavy load of road wins, true road wins, five of them against the field. I think it's the most in the country now. And, again, I don't know if I'm convinced Purdue's a national championship level team. They're certainly Final Four contenders. And it's really important for them to get a top two seed, which is where they're at now. So kudos to them. The Nebraska game, they had a big lead, blew the lead, and then survived an OT. So that was a wild game.
It was. They're going to get Michigan next, but after that,
At
Titel,
home, at home.
at
Yeah, yeah.
home, and then they're going to get into Indiana after that. And Indiana, a bit of a up and down week
Up
themselves,
and down
and
year.
up and
Jeez.
down year, maybe.
Puppet stealing my line. It's been a roller coaster of a season for new coach Darian DeVries. Started 12-3 due to a weak non-conference schedule, lost four in a row last month, but bounced back. Has won five of the past seven to get back on the right side of the bubble. I'm not sure how long they're going to stay there. Their next game is Friday at Purdue. But the key's been offense. Top 12 in the nation in shooting percentage from both 1 point land and 2 point land. Top two scorers are both transfers. They got Tucker DeVries, the coach's son, who was a two-time conference player of the year at Drake. And then Lamar Wilkerson, he was top 10 in the nation in threes per game last year at Sam Houston. But my favorite player is probably freshman Trent Sisley. He's only scoring five a game. At 6'8", I assume he's the tallest player ever from his hometown, population just over 2,500 people, Santa Claus, Indiana.
There you
Oh,
go.
cool.
Titel, let me ask you. Assume they lose this game at Purdue. Assume they go 3-1 in the others, so 3-2 down the stretch. Is that enough? Will they need to do something in the Big Ten tournament maybe to get in?
So that would be 3-2 in their final five, would put them 20-11. The WAB is just inside the range. The J&G is just inside, be pushing it. That Ohio State season finale could be a elimination game. Yes, to answer your question, I think they would need to win one in the Big Ten tourney. I forget how the seedings work because it might end up being a Rutgers-ish team they'd have to play, but I think they'd have to win one in the conference tourney.
Yeah, they'd probably be as a 9 or a 10 seed where they are right now, probably looking at having to do quite a few steps in the lengthy Big Ten tournament. Put it that way. Um, I guess that's most of what we got here in the conference. Maybe just briefly here, Griggs, Ohio State looking good after a win over USC. Had a huge non-conference test against a very good Virginia team and came up just short.
He played well in the Virginia game. Now, I have not been big on Ohio State at all, and I still am not a fan of their profile, and I haven't really been a fan of their team on the court either, but I do have to say that Virginia, huge fan of them, and they played great in that game. And I'm starting to think had they played like that all along, they wouldn't be outside the bubble. They'd be 7, 8 seed range.
It may be those Washington and Pittsburgh losses at the end of the day, Rocco. That's the end of it for Ohio State. Your Huskies may have knocked them out of the tournament at the end of the day.
I mean, at least it was a quad one road game. I mean, they have a good net with all their close losses, the Huskies. But yeah, Ohio State's got to step up and beat some people. They get Purdue and Indiana at home down the stretch.
Killer schedule down the stretch,
Yes.
honestly.
Yeah, but that's what you want. I mean, honestly, that's what you want. You got your chances. They almost got Virginia the other day. I mean, if they get three of those five and they hold serve at Penn State, they're probably getting in. So that's the beauty of super conferences, Chad. You get a million mulligans and you can still get in.
I'm starting to wonder if their ultimate goal is a first four game against Mother Miami should the Red Hawks slip up against Akron.
Ooh. I like it, Salika. I like it.
I think there's an
Upcoming
injury concern as well for Mobley at Ohio State with a hand.
Oh, really?
Should be noted as well. He left early against Virginia.
Okay.
I think he broke his pinky, but then he hurt some other part of his hand on top of that.
This is a heck of a week coming up in the Big Ten because there are a lot of really good games, starting with Michigan, Purdue, but we've got Nebraska at Iowa, we've got Wisconsin at Ohio State, we've got Illinois at USC, we've got the Indiana Purdue game, Illinois UCLA, Michigan Duke Titel on Saturday, the last key non-conference game of the season, probably the last non-conference game anyone's going to play this season until
I will be there, and I'm
NCAA
going to
tournament.
talk a lot about it in my final thought.
Absolutely, there's a ton of great games coming up this week in this conference. But let's jump over to let's go SEC. Why not? And Titel, why don't we start the bubble here in the SEC? And how about the Texas Longhorns? Real impressive on Saturday in their only game of the last 7 days with that win at Missouri, dominating them.
Your new coach is my old coach, Sean Miller. He's the epitome of the slogan, quote, if you cannot beat them, then join them. Because at Xavier, as coach, he beat Texas in the first four last March. 5 days later, joined the Longhorns as their head coach. Started 12-9 this year in Austin. Seemed destined for the NIT, but he's bounced back in a big way. 4 game winning streak, 7-5 in league play, 2 winnable games this week against LSU and Georgia. So he could have a 6 game winning streak when the Gators come to town next week. The key's been offense, top number 3 in the nation in adjusted offensive efficiency, and the portal has been his godsend. Top 2 scorers, Xavier transfer Dalen Swain, bulked up from a 178-pound freshman to a 225-pound junior. Incredible body control and composition. And FAU transfer Matis Vokatitis, who was Rookie of the Year last year in the American Conference.
Yeah, why don't we stick on the bubble here, Rocco? Georgia Bulldogs. I'll get to Missouri also in a second. Maybe we'll hit them back to back here. But this
Sure.
Georgia team, I'll tell you, I've seen them play a fair amount this season. I've never liked what I've seen on the court, and I think the resume started to catch up with that, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Right, and the home win over Auburn that looked impressive is weakening by the hour. The road win at Mizzou that looked good maybe after last Wednesday, weakened over the weekend thanks to Titel's Texas boys. And the Arkansas home win is really the only thing left that's impressive after that in terms of who they've beaten in the field. They've lost 6 times, maybe 7 now actually in the field. They just lost at Oklahoma, a non-field team. They're barely hanging on for me, but the 303rd ranked non-conference strength of schedule
God.
historically is not good. The one thing that is good for the Bulldogs, they're still 4-3 in their top 2 quad true road games, which is very favorable to most of the bubble. That's one of the things that kept them in on my analysis.
I'll
Yeah,
tell you
it's
that
not
that
historic.
40 the 47 wob is in that bad danger zone, is it not
Bad
too?
danger zone. Yeah, Xavier got in at 49 last year. I think they were the lowest.
And that's
Um,
So
also one spot above Ohio State is currently 48 in that metric.
yeah, the non-conference streak though, that's historically bad. It's also presently bad.
yeah.
Let's just jump right up to Missouri also. Griggs, this is another team that was looking good, had been on a 3 game losing streak until they ran into Texas, but they won the game at A&M. So they've made a little bit of noise here.
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of them until about a week ago. I mean, when I say I wasn't a fan, I wasn't selecting them, and I knew that they had a smattering of good wins, but I thought it was more moments than it was a sign of consistency and stability. I was actually really expecting the opposite of what happened. I wouldn't have been shocked at all had Mizzou won that game 85-68. That's about the kind of game I was expecting because the wins at Kentucky, well, I mean, that was a while ago, but the win at Texas A&M, I just thought was a really good win. To go on the road and the win like that, that was the one that really kind of impressed me, and it made me change how I looked at their profile. And I just was sort of expecting them to do better than that against Texas. Good Lord.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Look, bad non-conference strength of schedule 205, bad wob at 46. Both better than Georgia that we just looked at, though.
Yeah.
But the road record, it's the road record,
The road
Chad.
record, yep.
Yeah.
Missouri's road record is much more poor than Georgia's.
But they're two of their best wins, and we're both
I
on the
know.
road.
Yeah, they were.
Mhm.
A&M, we'll see where they land. I mean, they are falling fast themselves.
Yes. They
So
are.
it's weird.
They're not just in a tailspin; they're in a free fall. The
These
engine
four
is.
teams, if you throw Auburn in there with these two and Texas A&M, it's basically a house of cards between the 4 of them.
Yeah.
The house could collapse if they keep losing to the Oklahomas and the Mississippi States.
Well, it's
Yeah,
funny that you mentioned Oklahoma because we've mentioned Texas A&M as a team that's had a backloaded schedule. Oklahoma was extremely front-loaded and got off to a 1-9 start in the conference. They should have been buried at that point, but a funny thing happened at Vanderbilt. They get out to a 21-point lead, nearly blow the lead, but manage to hang on. And then after a bye week, they get a nice home win against Georgia where they literally caught fire, not just on the court, but in the stands as well.
The popcorn machine.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, if you look at their next two games, if they can somehow win at Tennessee and at home against Texas A&M, their schedule is actually going to be a lot easier by SEC standards down the road. It's possible they could make their way all the way back from 1-9 up to 9-9.
Yeah, I've got to see 6-0 down the stretch personally to be talking the Sooners this season. But
I know they got a lot to do, but
Yeah,
just the
they
mere
have
fact that
a
they've been able to pull the plane out from, at the moment, from crashing into the mountain, it's got to be
how,
worth something.
how many teams that had a 9-game losing streak have ever gotten an at-large bid?
somewhere
Well,
around zero.
Texas A&M almost pulled it off 4 years ago with an
Yeah,
eight-game losing streak.
yeah, they did.
Uh,
351 in luck right there, Chad. You got it up there. I
Yeah.
like
yep, yep. They are not a lucky team. But
that.
Yeah, I mean, like, they're located in Norman, Oklahoma. Talk about awful luck.
We just covered it. They were lucky off the court, not on the court.
uh, Titel, well, one other team quickly to mention here is Florida Gators, who are just cruising. Win at Georgia, dominating fashion, and then take care of Kentucky over the weekend too.
Red hot, Shad. It's hard to imagine that they lost at Missouri to open January, but since then only lost by single digits to Auburn at home. Very winnable games this week with South Carolina at home, Mississippi on the road, and then it gets much harder. Who am I kidding? At Texas, host Arkansas, at Kentucky to finish off the season. But yes, I think they are cruising. They, if not locked yet, they should be any minute now. And then I think that if they run the table, I don't know that they will, but if they do, I think that one seed is still out of range with so many losses, but I think two seed is like in the mix.
Yeah, I would say that.
Yeah, and at least they run in the SEC tournament. We know the committee probably doesn't care about the Sunday games and maybe not even the Saturday games, but at least get to the semifinals of the SEC tournament. Upcoming this week here in the SEC, we've got Georgia, a huge road game tomorrow night. That could change things around for them again.
Yeah.
Throwing Arkansas, Alabama. Go ahead, Griggs. Sorry.
I was just going to say, in that game, I fully expect Georgia to have a double-digit lead in the second half and lose because that's what everybody seemingly does at Kentucky.
Fair enough. Big week for Auburn also. Rocky mentioned them falling apart a little bit. At Mississippi State, home to Kentucky. Possible to go 2-0. They might need to go 2-0 at this point.
Also possible to go 0-2.
Very, very true. And keep an eye on this Tennessee Vanderbilt game here as well. It's a Tennessee
Yeah.
team. Griggs, it seems we don't discuss them much each week. They're just kind of hanging in there,
Yeah,
right outside the top 25, but just winning in just enough games all season.
yeah, I was thinking about that too. It's kind of crazy how they're just sort of camouflaged into everything else because they are pretty good. They're certainly in the top half of the bracket. They're on the verge of the rankings. They've had some really good wins. The win early on against Houston, the win at Alabama was really good. Louisville isn't the best road team, but they beat them to death. Uh, Yet they sort of somehow just, like I said, they're just sort of camouflaged in with the rest of the nation. They don't really pop out at you for some reason.
And
As I
other than that
alluded
game at
to earlier,
go ahead.
I was going to say, as I alluded to earlier, that's also a trap game at Oklahoma, so you don't want to be looking ahead to Vandy just yet.
Yeah,
Absolutely. But they really don't have a bad loss either, other than the
It's not,
Syracuse game.
yeah.
The Syracuse game that they really blew early in the season, but
yeah, they
that was
did.
back early December too. So you got to let's jump on where we're going. ACC time. How about that? Uh, Duke just won again tonight. Beat
Yeah.
Syracuse by about 3 billion points after they'd also been a nice win over Clemson over the weekend, albeit a home game.
I still cannot believe North Carolina beat them after I thought Duke had played an incredible game for about 39 minutes.
But Titel, how about this team that's number 2 in this conference? How about Virginia? Wins at Florida State and then got that Ohio State game we mentioned earlier.
Finally, no Joby on the show. It's my chance to shine. So you know how much I like first-year coaches, but Ryan Odom seems to be in a great situation. Grew up in Charlottesville, where his father Dave was an assistant to Coach Terry Holland back in the day. His NIL budget is allegedly 4 times as much as Ron Sanchez had last year, and he spent it wisely because the defense is great, top 20 in the nation in field goal percentage allowed from both 2-point land and 3-point land. Should beat Georgia Tech on the road Wednesday to get to 23-3. Then they host Miami on Saturday in a tough but winnable game. Got a lot of great transfers making big contributions. They got Malik Thomas from San Francisco and Sam Lewis from Toledo combining for 23 points and 8 boards a game. Recruiting has arguably been even more important. 3 freshmen among the top 5 scorers. Testa Ritter from Belgium, Chance Mallory from right there in Charlottesville, and Johann Grunloh from Germany. And as we all know, Die Jugend ist etwas Wunderbares, or youth is a wonderful thing in German.
There we go.
Always
We always got a language lesson from Ty
Yes,
We always got international players this year.
Rocco, the team of the conference this week, though, I think had to have been Miami with what they did, not only beating Carolina, but then winning at NC State in that crazy comeback over the weekend.
Yeah, that was wild. The North Carolina win, first of all, was a very well played game, dominated mainly from start to tip, tight in the first half and really stretched out in the second half. Malik Renew was great in both games, particularly even more so he had a double-double against North Carolina, 16 and 10. But in that NC State game, he was the catalyst throughout the 40 minutes, scoring 26. NC State went on an 11-0 run in that game, Chad. They built a 7-point lead with about a minute to go and somehow blew it. I was listening on the radio on my way to Santa Clara. It was an amazing call by the Miami Hurricanes radio team. Shout out to those guys. I love listening to games on the radio on Saturdays. It's honestly like a hidden gem because they give you everything you want to hear. And they said on the radio that the Hurricanes had 99 lives that day and they needed all 99 of them. And they were dead in the water. What a game! Obviously, if anybody missed it, True Washington got fouled on a 3, down 2, makes all 3 free throws, and then NC State got kind of a lame shot off at the end, and Miami somehow left Raleigh with a road win that changes everything for their tournament hopes.
Yeah.
A controversial foul, by the way. I thought it wasn't an.
He missed so badly that they kind of had to call it. It was he shot the ball about 10 feet.
Yeah.
I guess it's one of those ones that you don't like to see them call in the final minute, but maybe if it was like midway through the first half, that it would make sense to call one of those deals.
Yeah. And I think if you also look at the next 3 games that Miami has, they have Virginia coming up, but they've got 2 extremely schizophrenic teams sandwiched around them. Virginia Tech is a team. Yeah, they got a nice win at Clemson, then they get blown out at home by the Noles, and as you pointed out, Miami and Florida State, that's a rivalry already, but Florida State has also run very hot and cold this season.
Yeah, Va-Tech may have shot themselves in the foot, and at this point, there's a couple chances left here to get back in it, but Stalico, what about the Cal Bears? We talked last week that what a big road trip this was going to be at Syracuse, at BC. They won the game at BC. But they came up short in double overtime that game at Syracuse, what they really needed.
You could say both Cal and Syracuse literally shot the lights out in that game in what was the Carrier Dome, but now the JMA Dome. Cal, this was a road trip they really needed to sweep, but by only getting the split, they're going to be sweating a little bit more. The WAB, as you've noted, it's about 4 points below Ohio State, 5 points below Georgia. They have to sweep their final 3 games at home, and you really need to sweep, frankly, the rest of your regular season. Georgia Tech, Wake Forest. Well, Georgia Tech should be easy by ACC standards. Wake will be a little challenging, but the Bears, they don't have any margin for error anymore.
Yeah, is he right, Rocco? They need to go 5-0 here at this point with what they've got left on that schedule.
I think so. I think so because there's really only the SMU game, which will get them a win over the field. A Wake Forest road win is valuable, obviously. That would be considerable for WAB, at least, somewhere around a 50-cent piece. But I think any loss there, right, you go backwards. You kind of give away that good win if you lose one. So Cal just hasn't been consistent enough in conference to count on that. So they're going to really have to step it up and figure out consistency.
And again, here's a bad non-conference strength of schedule and a sub-50 WAB. Those are not tournament numbers.
Right.
Chad, you have a little audio.
Yeah, you have more than a little bit of feedback there, Chad.
Can you guys hear me now?
Oh, we hear you.
Yeah, it's just very scratchy.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll try to get that cleared up here. Griggs, take over for a second.
He's
Okay.
gonna pull a Gottlieb on his headset here pretty soon.
All right. Yeah. And can you blame them? So other SE or ACC teams here. I don't know. What
SMU.
about Louisville or SMU? Yeah, let's go SMU. Louisville's boring. Let's talk about SMU because they're right on the bubble, and they've been not spectacular enough to play their way out, but they still have some work to do in order to feel safe. What you say, and this game is Louisville coming up is massive.
Yeah, well, you lose at Syracuse, and suddenly you look at the new numbers. There's just 6 and 8 in the top two quadrants. They have a 5-0 quadrant three record, which really helps make sure they're safe for one more. But I think they can't take more than two more bad losses, maybe one more.
Yeah.
And they won one of their big games at home over Virginia Tech on a 58-foot shot, maybe a 60-foot shot by Boopy Miller. And I can't get that out of my head because what would their resume look like if that doesn't go in?
Yeah.
And I just think I think it doesn't matter right now, but if they end up even closer to the cut line, that game's certainly going to get discussed.
Oh
And,
yeah.
and they just haven't been playing as well the last couple of weeks. I think that's the bigger concern. If that continues,
Yeah.
then you've got a real problem.
All right,
And
guys. First of all, is my audio back?
yes,
Yes.
it is. Woo!
Okay, good. All right. Then we can move on here. And thanks for covering me there. Let's take a quick look at the upcoming schedule here in the conference, beginning with Vatech at Miami tomorrow night, Louisville at SMU, North Carolina, NC State, and the Duke Michigan game, Miami at Virginia. A lot of good games here, Griggs.
A lot of good games, and then I mean, I think that we just have some bubblicious stuff here, like with between SMU, Cal, and Va Tech, all
Yeah.
three of them, right squarely on it. Cal probably out of it. SMU probably just Va Tech straddling it, and maybe SMU just in. Did I get that
And
right, bracketology experts?
I think so. And I think SMU in these last 2 years with Louisville, they've been blown out. That's a really bad matchup for them. And again, I think they only have one more grace period type of loss. That might be it right away tomorrow.
Yeah.
Let's jump over to the Big East real quick, where we begin. Well, Slika, you're the Big East guy here. UConn had the 2-0 week. St. John's had the 2-0 week.
I
Villanova
think
had the 2-0 week.
Yeah, I was gonna say, as far as UConn, I just think there are just certain matchups that they just get completely bored, they get disengaged. I think even Ed Cooley is like, I thought I was walking into the basketball capital of the world. How did you only beat us by 4 points in that one? And you also look at a team like Butler, who's gone completely downhill since their November injury, and even Seton Hall managed to get a win at Henkel just to keep their flickering hopes alive. And Villanova avenged the one bad loss they had earlier in the conference, where they go into Omaha and get the win at Creighton. But if you're a team like Seton Hall right
Yeah.
now, you've got 3 games you pretty much have to win at home. I mean, DePaul, Georgetown, no brainers. St. John's, you need the quality win at this point. UConn, going to be a shot in the dark, but Xavier, that's not a game where you can afford to stumble this year if you're the Pirates.
Yeah. Tytel, let me ask you, what does 4 out of 5 do for Seton Hall? Are they in at that point?
What
If
if
they
I
just
would put
lose,
them at 22-9 with the Web and the J&G on the wrong side? I don't think so. I want to ask Delika though, is that Xavier game? That looks like a huge trap game based on the opponent
Huge.
before and after, but I don't know.
Well, that is senior day for the Musketeers, but
Ah.
but if speaking of trap games, we're also going to see what Xavier does at home against Villanova tomorrow night. The big problem for the Musketeers, Kyle Neptune's not coaching the Wildcats anymore.
Xavier's had moments where they've looked really good. They played a great game against St. John's recently, didn't win it, but
Well, the problem is they jump out to great first half leads like they did against Marquette, where they jumped out by 21 and they just take their foot off the gas in the second half. And as we saw in their bye games early in the year, they're playing with fire when they do that.
yeah.
the key games this week, I think, first of all, Seton Hall cannot lose either of these games to Paul Georgetown home. UConn at Villanova though on Saturday. This has a chance, Griggs, to be a real good game.
It does, especially if UConn continues to sort of sleepwalk the way that they have a tendency to do. Now, when they answer the bell, they're as good as anyone. We're still putting them on the one line, and rightfully so. But on the road at Nova, it's probably the toughest conference game they'll play.
And
Other than at the Johnnies.
yeah, in fact, I didn't even realize Nova was hosting UConn, so that's makes Villanova Xavier even more of a trap game for the Wildcats now.
Rocco, I got to ask you, you just sent a message that this league needs a bid thief. My problem
Yeah.
is I don't see anybody that's good enough to do it.
No,
Is there
but you
anyone here
have
that could win three in a row?
not on paper, absolutely not. You need like a Patrick Ewing style Georgetown shocker in the Garden type of run from one of these teams, because I don't think anybody saw it that year coming. But you just never know. The Big East tournament is the greatest power conference tournament by a mile. Anything could happen in the Garden, and we have 8 lottery balls to play with if Seton Hall can't get over the hump. So let's just pray for a miracle because I think I don't know. We had 3 Big East teams before. These are all 3 good teams, but I don't know. It'd be great to see one of them get hot because these are such great programs with great fan
Well,
bases.
we'll also see what happens Wednesday because Creighton used to have a hex as far, on UConn, at least as far as record in that series. But unfortunately, when you saw what the Huskies did to the Blue Jays this year, I wouldn't have my hopes up for that game.
Creighton's been a disaster.
Yeah.
Not when
Over
they
in the
play us.
over in the Mountain West, again, we'll kind of look at the three teams we've been following. They all went undefeated this week. Utah State with the home win over Memphis in the non-conference game. I guess Rocco, probably the most significant win was New Mexico getting the road win at Grand Canyon from this past week, really keeping the Lobos alive for a bid still.
Yeah, it was, and that's obviously a tough place to win. Unfortunately, you don't get as much credit as winning at a tournament team, but you and I know, and I think everybody on the show here knows that's probably a tougher road win than a good chunk of the tournament teams winning at their place. So I'm very impressed by that effort. It was a rowdy crowd. I was texting with both beat writers throughout the game, and major credit. I'm very impressed by the Lobos. If I wasn't a guess the committee kind of guy, I would vote for them to be in because I just think they've achieved a lot of tough game winning at VCU the way they did. Going to Colorado State's not easy. I know they're a little down, pounding Santa Clara. I mean, this has been a great season there. But the circumstances are the circumstances, and they're just barely out. I also thought the other one, Chad, San Diego State beating Nevada and getting Magoon Gwath for at least a handful of minutes. Really good sign for the Aztecs. Like we talked about on the show yesterday, they've been the most consistent team, them and Utah State, obviously. And I think if they share the title, that's an extra little nugget that the Aztecs could really use in the committee deliberation room if they're in the same type of position.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
they do play one more time coming up a week from now, a little over a week
Yep.
from now, though.
yeah, that's
At home.
I,
Yeah.
I think New Mexico has a path. Might be a narrow
Absolutely.
win, but I think they could even get there if they win out in all regular season games minus the game at Utah State. Even if they drop that one, but they win all the rest, I think they're going to get a serious look and
It's gonna be
probably
tight.
end up getting selected.
Well, the win at Nevada would be a quad one win.
It would be.
Uh, and the win over San Diego State was also actually would be a tier two win, but it's probably even a better win than winning at Nevada. But
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're at a point right now with them just being so close to the bubble. Like there were people last night, I think, that said they wouldn't have either of them in quite yet. That the league can really only hope for 3 bids because if you get 2 out of the 3 and you get a bid steal, you're still at 3. Otherwise, if one of the 3 wins the tournament, you're at 3 either way. So that's kind of where the league's at. I don't know if there's many scenarios left to get 4
yeah,
because
I
they have
think
to play each other. They have to play each other.
I think the bid steal would a bid steal in the tournament would steal its own bid
Yeah.
if it's a 3 bid
Yeah,
league.
yeah, they're just too close to the bubble. Exactly.
Coming up this week, kind of circle what Utah State has. Titel hosting Boise State at Nevada.
At
Neither has won a
Nevada.
tournament team, but they're both right on that, I guess that NIT or Crown or whatever level team.
Which is the perfect segue, Chad. Can we finally give up on Nevada, or are you still driving that bandwagon?
No, they had their chance. I think they lost their chance with the loss they just had at San Diego State. I was looking at them having those chances ahead. I may be talking Nevada come Mountain West Conference tournament as my bid stealer though, so we'll see.
Nice.
Oh,
UNLV, Chad. UNLV, team of the week
Yeah,
in this conference, by the way.
we always pick UNLV to steal
we
it, and they
always
never
do, and
do
then
it,
They
Rocco.
always lose in the quarterfinals. They
But they
always
don't.
lose. They don't even make it out of the first day.
The
They
problem is they
just
don't really play in their home court because they bring another court
the
in
brown.
instead.
It's the brown court. They don't like the brown court.
yeah,
Uh, West Coast Conference. How about Stalika? How about Gonzaga?
nice win last night.
Real
Wow.
that win at Santa Clara Saturday night. Very impressive.
That was important for Gonzaga in that it's basically going to keep them in a protected seed territory, maybe a three if they're able to run the table. But on the other side of the coin is for the Broncos for Santa Clara. Now it's a missed opportunity because now you pretty much have to beat St. Mary's, and you're going to have to beat one of the two teams in the West Coast Conference tournament to really feel confident about your chances now. So unlike the Big Ten, where you've probably got 9 or 10 mulligans, as Rocco said, they don't exist in the WCC.
Yeah, that Santa Clara profile and the St. Mary's profile. We looked at them a bunch last night too.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, Griggs. It's I guess it's a huge game here coming up on the 25th. Santa Clara at St. Mary's. The winners
Oh
got to
yeah,
feel strong. The losers got to be worrying.
right. And this is a potential semifinal game if the chalk holds until that point as well. And looking at the seed, but yeah, I mean that is a hugely important game. And regardless of the outcome, are we looking at a case where a semifinal game might be almost a practical play-in game?
Well, I guess that's the question, Rocco. Is there a realistic path to a three-bid West Coast Conference, given that Santa Clara and St. Mary's are probably going to play each other two more times, both
Yes.
regular season and semifinals?
Yes, I think the best path, the cleanest path, would have Santa Clara sweep the Gales, then the Gales turn around and get pissed off and beat the Zags. Then they get their big win. Santa Clara's got their sweep over the Gales. Then they're both pretty decently, maybe by about 7, 8 teams inside the bubble, and then let the WCC tournament play out. That's the cleanest path. Obviously, you have more scenarios with that semifinal game. But Chad, we all know we're getting the St. Mary's Gonzaga championship game like every year. I'm
Yeah.
tired of watching the same movie, but I keep going back to it.
Well, good news, you won't have it next year.
That's right. That's right. I'm looking forward to next year. We're going to get somebody new in the championship game. I think Gonzaga's been to 27 in a row.
Is it that many?
They
Wow.
never lose in the semis. They've lost a few championships, but
Yeah.
Uh,
Like 27 in a row.
it's insane. Yeah.
Yeah.
some potential road traps coming up now. Gonzaga and Santa Clara both in San Francisco this week, and St. Mary's has to go to Seattle coming up here on Wednesday night. And Griggs, we know what that means. Even if
Oh
they're,
my
even if
God.
they're not, are they even playing in this building or are they playing at the other?
I don't know, but like that structure is you just don't. It's just a scary place to be. Look at the
Absolutely.
size of that. Oh,
It's, I don't know. I don't know where. We'll have to double check where that game's actually being played. But uh, that really did not look right there, does it?
yeah.
He was trying to
Okay.
pull up the Pac-12, but that's not going
Yeah.
to be active till next year.
No, we
Yeah.
seem to be having a problem there, so we can't go on to the. Maybe we jump over to the A10 instead here. How's that? Uh, A10, Titel, St. Louis just keeps winning games.
Yes, I don't think we can lock them because they're going to have a lot of crappy losses if they lose at all to anybody else in this atrocious conference, like Rhode Island on tomorrow. And I agree that like there's a path for VCU to pull off an upset or whatever, but this is their conference to lose. And I think a couple big questions. One, like, do they win out and enter the tournament with one loss, which would be amazing? Two, like, how far do they go? Because I think on one of the shows this week, Seth Greenberg's maybe on game day, he said that like not that they're good enough to make the Sweet 16. He said they will make the Sweet 16, which is a very strong statement for a team that is 26th in the JNG. They might, but like I don't think you can guarantee it. Three, is there any chance Josh Schertz, their coach, is back next year? Because I think he's going to be the hottest name in the business.
I think I agree with you on all of that. Yeah, the other team we've discussed these guys for a few weeks now. I know the top of the profile is lacking, but Rocco at 20-6 VCU at St. Louis Friday night. That's it becomes interesting if they find a way to win that game, does it not?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, they've ripped off 9 wins in a row right now,
Mm-hmm.
and I did not expect that. I mean, credit to Martelli Jr. He's done a great job getting them playing his brand of basketball. It's a lot different than the way Odom ran the program, and it's working. So that's a major t hat tip. There's no shame in losing at St. Louis. It's just they need that win to really, have the quad one, the high quad one, the tournament level. Checks all the boxes if they get that win. But you look at it without that win, it's just 3 home wins and a game at Dayton, which unfortunately Dayton's fallen kind of near the toilet, and it's just not worth a lot right now.
That's a
So
shame.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then you're only playing St. Louis again if it's in the championship game, and at that point you got to beat them to get the auto bid.
I'll tell you though, Griggs, all you got to do is split against St. Louis, and you don't have to win on the road. You just have to beat them in a neutral court in Pittsburgh in the A10 tournament final.
There you
Then
go.
you're in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then
That
you're
that
in.
that would do it. That would get them in.
Uh,
That'd be a dream for the league because I don't even know if that would hurt St. Louis's seed by then because that game's on a Sunday.
It would. At that point, I don't think it would. And here's why, Rocco. I know that you probably you try and guess the committee, and you probably know them, but I've had several committee members say to me that like those conference tournament games, unless they change who you are, it doesn't really matter because I just don't think they're going to penalize St. Louis for losing that when they've already like finished first and beaten them, and I don't think they're going to reward them for winning it when they've all they're really doing is repeating what they've already done. Does
Yeah,
that make
and
sense?
it does, and then at
Yeah,
that point, St. Louis is up to 32 wins.
yeah.
So they would add 2 more at the tournament.
Yeah, because St. Louis is going in, I think, on the first ballot. I know we haven't locked them yet, but if they keep going like they're going in on the first ballot.
Agreed.
Yeah.
uh, one more, not quite a full conference, one more team to discuss. 25-0 now. Unbelievable. 22-0 against D1. Undefeated in the MAC. Miami, Ohio. Uh, Griggs
Yeah.
at UMass Bowling Green home this week after they got through that, got through a couple more games this past week, including
Yeah.
that big game against Ohio.
Yeah. And a really impressive win against Ohio. And I realized that you can say, well, it was a bye game. That's what we would say about a tournament caliber team playing Ohio from a power conference. But they made it look like a bye game. They really did.
Mhm.
And I think or excuse me, Miami of Ohio, the last 3 or 4 games that I've watched them, I think they've looked better in the past couple weeks than they have all season leading up to this. Not that they ever looked bad, but the win at Marshall was ever since that Marshall game, I think they've just looked really, really good.
Yeah. And again, it comes down to Titel. If something happens, let's say they even get these last 6 regular season wins, they slip up in that MAC tournament. You're looking at a 363 non-conference strength of schedule. You're looking at a 350 overall strength of schedule on a bubble team. That's a killer, is it not?
It is not. So
Oh,
the
okay.
magic number is 29. Every single team that's ever won 29 games has made the NCAA tournament. I understand that most of those teams, probably all of those teams, did not have as atrocious a strength of schedule as the Red Hawks. I get that. But I don't think that, I think a 29 win team, period, even if it's the Red Hawks, is getting in. The question, I think, is if they win out and are undefeated, is this like an 8 seed possible? Are you saying that due to strength of schedule, there's no way they're getting a single digit seed?
Uh,
I guess
Shouldn't we be asking you that?
well, yeah, what is the ceiling on what would we be looking at now? I get you say 29-0. It may really only be 26-0 if well, I guess no. If we win the conference tournament, they'd be 33. They'd be 30-0 against D1, 33-0 overall. You want to throw in the fact that there's 3 non-D1 games there, but either way, what is a 33-0 Miami's? I guess it's actually 34-0. I think I got my math wrong. 34-0 Miami's cap on a seed line.
I think it's an 8 seed. I assume Rocco's going to say there's no way it's getting close to an 8 or even a 9 seed.
My best guess would be it probably won't get above an 11. That's my best guess. But there is a world where these guys, if they really love the WAB that much, they just go straight WAB. And right now, WAB would put them at a 9. They probably work their way to an 8. So I have to agree with John in terms of like ceiling and form, ceiling and floor, 8 to 11 range. But I actually would probably be one or the other. It would be straight WAB vote or just no, they're not better than any of these teams above the cut line. Keep them as the last 11. You know,
You mentioned the WAB, like Chad, you sent this out the other day, like the points of emphasis, and you almost kind of go down, and you try and envision how will the committee use these points of emphasis to evaluate a team that is you got to the evaluation isn't as straightforward as evaluating somebody from a power conference because they don't have those opportunities.
But
I
but
will,
that's where these predictive metrics come in that don't help them very
yeah,
much.
they don't. I will say
yeah,
this
it's
for
so hard to go
Miami.
undefeated. Like, yeah, yeah. You're doing them more of a favor giving them an 11, honestly. 8, 9, you're not getting out of the pod. And 11, they could get out of the pod if they shoot the lights out.
Mhm.
Yeah, and if a 14 beats a three.
And if a four, yeah, please,
Uh,
Lord.
Um, Miami tried to schedule, and that's what's kind of I know that um like they look at attempt to schedule or like intent to schedule is the phrasing they use, but what they mean by that is if you build a schedule and it lets you down, they consider that. What they don't consider is how much of an effort a team made to try and build a competitive schedule, but couldn't because schools avoided them. This team was all over the scheduling boards, basically begging for games this summer and couldn't get them. I wish the committee would consider that. They don't, but they should.
Yeah. Well, I guess on that note, that does conclude going through all the conferences. Let's turn to final thoughts. And Tytel, since you need the screen share, let me start with you and a little game you'll be going to this weekend.
Nothing little about it, Chad. The duel
Yeah.
in the district coming to town. It's the only silver lining in Arizona's 2 game losing streak is that it sets up this marvelous matchup down the street. Only 46 previous games in this history of the sport were number one against number two. I assume this was going to be number 47, but thanks to 5 measly points in today's AP poll, it's going to be one against three. But the last time these two faced each other was back in December 2013. Quinn Cook had 24 points in Duke's 10-point win over the Wolverines at Cameron Indoor Stadium. These two teams have been amazing this year. Combined 3 losses by a combined 7 points, so they're literally 3 or 4 possessions away from being undefeated. They're both top 10 in adjusted offensive and defensive efficiency. They both have a 6'9 superstar forward, Cam Boozer for one, Jaxa Lendeborg for the other. And as excited as I am for what could easily be a championship game preview, I'm almost more excited to attend college game day for the first time ever in my life. So feel free to look for me in the crowd on Saturday to see if I can come up with some kind of clever sign and make it on a TV.
All right.
Aren't they interviewing you? I thought you were going to be on the panel.
Not yet, but I'm working on
Yeah,
it. If Seth Greenberg pulls a hip or something, I
yeah.
might squeeze in.
All right. Rocco.
A quick shout out to the Fordham Rams. We didn't talk about the Rams during the A10 section, but two great road wins, in my opinion, based on this team being in rebuilding mode, going to St. Joe's, who was previously hot and in position to be a double bye team, and winning at St. Joe's. And the Rhode Island game was up and down throughout. They get that thing to overtime and pull out a road win at Rhode Island. Fordham now 5-8. Obviously, they had a really rough non-conference. They didn't play really anybody, but they lost to Holy Cross, Colgate, NJIT, and Iona. Now they've been able to beat George Washington, the two teams I just mentioned, and they've won at the Bonnies. Mike Magpio didn't wasn't allowed to have recruits on campus till August 5th. Obviously, the portal was pretty much done by then, and so they're making chicken almost salad out of chicken something else. So big credit for the progress they're making and the week they had. And then also, I was going to touch UNLV. I mean, we talked about them for a hot second, but winning at Boise State after trailing by, I think, 20, maybe 20 plus, and winning that thing in overtime was nothing short of a miracle. UNLV's got some of the weirdest wins this year. Going to Boise and winning, going to Stanford and winning, going to Memphis and winning, going to Utah State and winning. but then also losing to teams like Fresno, Tennessee State, Wyoming, and Montana and UT Martin. What a year for the Rebels. But the key is they've won three in a row and trending in the right direction. Suddenly 8-6 in the Mountain West, Chad.
Better in the Mountain West than they are in the OVC. That's all I know
Yeah.
about them.
Correct.
That's true.
Stalika.
I'm sure this will probably make the puppet proud right here. Travis Steele made an appearance on College Game Day last Saturday, and he was talking about some of Miami super fans that have been starting to show up to more of their games recently. That, of course, would be the Miami swim team. So
Oh,
Travis Steele is now on record as saying if the Redhawks run the table and end up winning the MAC title, he will go full speedo on Selection Sunday on national TV.
All right. So I will not be watching Selection Sunday.
I really thought that was funny. I think Davidson was the first swim team to start doing that, and when they did it, I thought it was hilarious. But I just think we've got way too many guys in speedos on television now. Like,
Uh,
you
St.
know,
Louis is doing it too. They were all
St.
behind
Louis
me when I
and
went there.
Miami
Yeah.
and Akron,
Sean Hall
Valpo,
did it
and
for a while.
yeah, and I mean, you like the enthusiasm, but it's sort of like the "I believe" chant. Only like even it, it was cool when Navy did it, but it should have just stayed theirs. Come up with your own thing.
I will just say that a Xavier swim team showed up on New Year's Eve for the game against UConn. I think the Musketeers may have been permanently scarred from the get-go on that one.
Griggs, any other thoughts from you?
No, it's just we need some more. We need some new innovation other than guys in speedos. I did have a final thought, but what was? Oh yeah, to kind of build up on what Tytel had said, the Duke Michigan game. I actually kind of like the idea. You rarely see it, but I kind of like the idea of out of conference games in January and in February, and I kind of this isn't how it's typically done. How it's almost not just generally done, but almost exclusively done is November and December, there's no conference games. And then January and February and the first week of March, there's no out of conference games. And why can't we have like almost, I know this would take more cooperation than what is possible from all 31 leagues, but say the second week of January and the second week of February, you sort of leave open for out of conference scheduling. I think it's great that Duke is playing Michigan. It would be great if it were in November and December, but what a great showcase game in February. That's just awesome.
I like it. Obviously, we harken back to bracket busters a lot, for the under the radar
Yeah,
schools.
I
Love to get
loved
something
it.
like that going back, but
Yeah.
the best we had this year was the Max Sunbelt games, I guess.
Yeah.
But anyhow, on that note, I do want to thank everybody for joining us. We will be back actually a little special Tuesday night edition tomorrow night. We're going to be doing the Under the Radar a day early tonight, this week. We'll be back Sunday with a bracket rundown. Next Monday with another Hoops HD report. I don't know what show I'm on, but
Yeah.
on behalf of John Teitel, John Salika, Rocco Miller from Bracketeer.org, David Griggs, I'm Chad Sherwood. Thanks for joining us. Talk to you again real soon.